Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, I am proud to present a legend, a watch I've never previously featured on the channel in 8,800 videos posted to this account. We're talking about the Rolex 5100. Put on your Stetson because here comes the Texan. Whether you know it as 5100, the Beta-21, Texano, or the Texan, this watch is an absolute legend. The first quartz Rolex watch and part of the charter family of Swiss quartz movements. The Beta-21 unveiled in 1969. This model, debuted the next year, 1970, was built out in approximately 1,000 pieces, of which 90% were yellow gold, as you see here. Around 100 of them would have been white gold. All are scarce today, and they have a number of interesting features that make them distinct from anything else Rolex made at the time, prior, and afterwards. So let's quickly note before we jump in any deeper than this, that this is a certified pre-owned Rolex watch, which means not only does it have the distinctive CPO hang tag and the globally valid 2-year warranty backed by Rolex itself, but the timepiece comes with a number of fun accessories, including a suede leatherette travel pouch, a warranty manual explaining the terms of warranty with a Rolex leatherette wallet for carrying it as well as the CPO warranty card. And finally, a little book including care feeding, CPO background information, service network details, and a little bit of information about Rolex.com. Of course, I would be remiss if I were not to mention that there's also a lovely CPO outer packaging box. Now, there's more going on here because this is also a restoration. Rolex has a restoration shop, and this watch was restored, which means there are restoration-specific documents and packaging that come with this example. Now, you might ask, if this has been restored, why doesn't it look perfectly shiny and pristine? Because part of the premise of the Rolex Atelier restoration outfit is that they preserve rather than replace in as many instances as possible. So you can see there's a little bit of freckling across the dial, and the case is not immaculate, nor will it be made so. This is original fabric because it's only factory once. So taking a closer look at the watch, you could see that it was absolutely huge by the standards of 1970. It's a 40mm watch, but only in the sense that that's the stated size. It wears a bit larger, though it's probably thinner than you think. At 12.6mm thick, you can see the turbine-style unbranded crown. And I just measured the first link on either side, so I get a distance across the wrist of 53mm, even though if you just measure the case lug to lug, that's just the case, it'll be about 40.1. So the only way to really express how this watch fits is to put it on the wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters circumference. Now you get a good sense of it. So very similar to an oyster quartz, though it is larger, and it is far larger. In terms of mass, it's heftier. In terms of size, it has a bigger footprint. I'd say you could probably wear this on a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger. I could fit this on a wrist slightly smaller than mine, and you can see it'll have no trouble fitting underneath a cuff. Taking a quick look at the watch, the bracelet is an important part of the timepiece because you'll find it is shared with no other Rolex design. Look at it from the underside and you can see the intricacy of its construction. Now, all of this is original fabric. If necessary, Rolex's Atelier can add links if they are missing by remanufacturing them from scratch. Atelier is a much higher level of service than you get at standard cleaning, oiling, adjustment. This is even more than you would get on a standard CPO Rolex watch. Taking a look inside, you can see that it is 1970 and a 3, so the third quarter of 1970 when this clasp would have been made. And then you can also appreciate that there are additional details, which I'm going to bring to light right here. You could see the signature. I'm going to do my best to show it right there. Next to 750, see where it says JPE. They were a important and super high-end bracelet maker at the time, the equivalent of something along the lines of Gay Frère, extremely high quality. And they were known for making high-end bracelets for Rolex, Patek Philippe, and others. The full name of the company is Jean-Pierre et Coffet, and they were some of the nomenclatura in bracelet making back in the early 1970s when this watch was manufactured. Of course, the design is prominent and very familiar to students of 1970s watch design, leading to the inevitable question, who actually designed this watch? And while Rolex will never discuss that explicitly, I have it on good account, and by that I mean one of the world's foremost Rolex experts told me that Gerald Genta designed this uncredited. So I'm just putting that out there based on my absolute faith in this person's sources, credibility, and insight into Rolex history. So that's that. And this watch came out in 1970. So do the math. That would make this, and not the Royal Oak, the first iconic Genta integrated bracelet design of the 70s era. A few other things to note about this watch. You can see it has a unique case. This is not an oyster quartz. This is not the case used on a 1530 or a 1630. It is entirely a unique proposition, born primarily of the fact that the movement inside is huge. We're talking about a rectangular movement that doesn't naturally mate to a round case form, so you wind up with a tonneau here, somewhere between round and rectangular. We do have a few important notes. The watch was never water resistant. By that, I mean all the way back to 1970. Due to the construction of the case, it was 0 meters then, it is 0 meters now, so that's kind of important. We have gold hands, gold indices, a sunburst sort of golden champagne toned dial, and then we have a Cyclops eye magnifier over the date. A quick note about the date on these. Yes, they have a quick set. No, they don't work the way you think. You push the crown, so you apply inward pressure, and then you turn it counterclockwise. Don't do it at basically any time PM whatsoever to protect the mechanism. But you don't push the crown in and index it like a button. You definitely don't pull it out and start turning. I've seen people pull the crowns out of Beta-21s trying to figure out how to operate the quick set. You press, apply pressure, and under compression you turn it counterclockwise, and that will rotate the date. Pull the crown out. There's only one stop. There's no dead space where a quick set should be. It's in, it's out. There's only 2 spots for this crown. When it's out, it activates stop seconds, and you could set the watch to a reference time to the second. Taking a quick look at the case back, you'll appreciate that, well, there's really nothing to see, but it does have individual numbering that has been freehand engraved. That's something you will not find on a modern Rolex watch. And the number of honest-to-God limited edition Rolex models in history could pretty much be counted on one hand. It was around 1,000, of which, depending on your source, 800 or 900, and I tend to believe the 900 number, were made in yellow gold, as you see here. Although not the first Rolex watch to use a sapphire crystal, it was among the first. And since Rolex only introduced quick-set features across its range in 1971, this is a candidate to be declared the first Rolex watch with a quick-set function, at least in series production. I would say one of the first. I wouldn't say hard and fast the first, but definitely one of the first. Buying this watch back in the day made you a big deal. Rolex would receive you in grand fashion, and they kept a register of the original owners. So this is a watch from a time when quartz meant prestige and innovation, when quartz was anything but cheap. Remember, even the Astron 35 SQ from Seiko from 1969, that watch had a US dollar price in the 4 figures. In the early days, quartz was not cheap. It was a breakthrough technology, and the early adopters paid a lot of money for the prestige of these watches. What's prestigious? Well, aside from the technology, the accuracy. Back in the day, these were stated to run no worse than about 5 seconds per day, which is immensely impressive. That is 5 seconds per month. 5 seconds per month is awesome. 5 seconds a day is chronometer, but 5 seconds a month is above and beyond even a standard quartz watch today, which is generally described as a 15-second interval for a standard quartz timekeeper. So this was 3 times better than that in 1970. The Beta-21 is an interesting movement. Of course, it's very generic in its design. There wasn't a whole lot to distinguish, say, a Rolex or Patek Philippe Beta-21 from one used in an IWC or a Bucherer. So it was a collaborative design by CEH. So Centre Électronique Horloger, which was a collaborative effort set up by a number of Swiss manufacturers, movement specialists, universities, and trade associations to develop quartz technology during the 1960s. There was a Beta-1, there was a Beta-2. The evolution of these technologies led to the Beta-21, which was announced in 1969, a year when the dam really broke for quartz in consumer watches. There was the Beta-21, there was Longines Quixotic device, which was technically quartz and technically available, but a dead end technologically. And of course, Seiko got there too with the Astron. The Beta-21 was an interesting watch because first generation technology is always interesting. Inside, you have a watch with a battery that has a power reserve of somewhere between, I would say, 10 and 14 months with modern battery cells, and it has an odd operating frequency. So it starts at a frequency of 8,192 hertz, which through 5 step-down circuits becomes an audible 256 hertz. There is what's sometimes described as a vibrating reed motor that indexes the seconds hand, which then through gears drives the minutes and the hours. And the best way to visualize this is like a seesaw rocking back and forth with 2 pawls, each with a pawl jewel. It almost looks like an IWC Peloton pawl-based winding system working in reverse. So just think of it that way, and you're not too far off. Now, the interesting thing about this movement is that it is audible, like, well, an Accutron, or the Max Hetzel designed movements used by Omega's tuning fork watches. So when you hold this up to your ear, you can absolutely hear it. And because it has that 256 hertz rate, it appears to sweep smoothly, not so much like a mechanical watch because they're not that smooth, almost more like a spring drive, as there is no perceptible start, stop, or stagger to that seconds hand. It is a deeply impressive movement, and these were built to go the distance. The 13-jewel movement used a lot of traditional watchmaking, and it can be serviced by traditional watchmakers who know what they're doing. I recommend this watch only ever be serviced by Rolex. They know it best, and they have the resources to support a highly specialized vintage movement, which this is. This is an unbelievably rare opportunity to own one of the rarest and most important Rolex models ever made, restored by Rolex and arriving with Rolex CPO guarantees. This is a 1970 model, remember. They were built out between 1970 and just about finished by 1972. The original Beta-21 was made in about 6,000 copies, though individual brands in some cases produced a few extra by themselves to supply their production. This watch comes with a lot of patrimony and pedigree. Having been through Rolex's restoration atelier, you can buy this sort of frontier early 70s technology with a great deal of peace of mind, meaning it's something you can actually wear and enjoy. And the Beta-21 is so important that a Beta-21 movement actually exists as part of the Smithsonian's collection. The permanent collection of the American Smithsonian Institution has a Beta-21 because of its historic importance as a pivotal development in the history of timekeeping. This is an awesome watch, arguably the Beta-21 to own, and certainly one of the most impressive and unusual Rolex watches of all time. This is a timepiece for the ages, and it could be the capstone to any 1970s watch or Rolex collection. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.